So yesterday we continued our discussion on the topic of free will. And the Rambam's position is that when Chazal say Hakla b'dei Shemayim chutz min Shemayim, it means that. So today we're going to see more about the Hakla b'dei Shemayim. Regarding the chutz min Shemayim, we initially a person could think that chutz min Shemayim is a very limited thing. Really, everything is b'dei Shemayim. Everything regarding a person's life is b'dei Shemayim. The amount of money he makes, which properties he buys, the woman he marries, the place he lives, the relationships he has. People could say that is that's bashert, and that is something that's not in his hands, and certain things that you just can't. You're not in control. You might think you're in control. You might think that really it's you who is accomplishing and it's you who's losing, regardless, and you messed up. No, and really and so there's a certain mahalach that says you didn't mess up. It was b'dei Shemayim, and the reason it was bashert for you to mess up and finished. Accept it, and that's the way. That's the way you should accept it. Remove yourself from the picture in both ways. First of all, you can't take the credit for it, and also you shouldn't bear the responsibility for it. The Rambam disagrees with this entire perception of reality. In the Rambam's world, a person has free will, and because he has free will, he is responsible for his actions and for the outcomes of his actions. And therefore, he could take credit, and he could also take control. Now, we saw that, we didn't go into this in great length, but we know that is a lot of our chinuch today is built on a different perspective on hashgacha, right? The question is, and the Rambam is going to allude to this in a minute, and that is how much of what's going on in this world is directly controlled by the Eibishter, because that's a very big question. Because if every transaction, let's say, if every time people trade money, then Hashem is kaviyachol personally involved in that, and he sees and he controls where the money goes, then obviously I can't. Then, meaning, if that's how the world works, then naturally you could tell me that you can't make more money than you should make, because every dollar bill has an address. Every every business deal is decided the Bezdin Shalma'ala if it's going to go through and how much money it's going to make, and so on and so forth. The Rambam says that people have bechira and people could choose and live with the outcomes of their actions and bear the brunt of their responsibility. Now, where Hashgacha is going to, according to the Rambam, where Hashgacha is going to come in is in areas of schar v'oinish. When Hashem wants to, so like this, because the Rambam doesn't really go into this all the way in detail over here, and this is a tremendous sugya, be'emes, that I don't think we could really do justice in it's something we'll have to see inside in the Rambam and the Ramban and the Chinuch and many other Rishonim discuss this topic in great length. Avos, obviously. But we do have to, because we're learning Rambam, we have to appreciate the Rambam's sort of the entirety of his mahalach, and that is that there are the rules of nature, and there's a certain, you could almost say, autopilot that the world runs on, and the general system is b'dei Shemayim, meaning there's a certain general we're going to see some of it now, but the laws of nature are b'dei Shemayim, and therefore the general system is something that the health of the world and the situation of the general ecosystem, that is something that's obviously b'dei Shemayim, and beyond that, in general, when Hashem put down people in the world and He gave them free will and they can do as they wish, and they can impact society and they can impact each other and their own lives based on their bechira. Now, in a certain sense, Okay, so that's the general population. Now, the more a person is dovek in Hashem, the more a person is connected, which this is sort of the tachlis of the entire Shemona Prakim, the entire Masechtes Avos, and all the stories of the Torah, and that is to guide a person, and all the mitzvahs of the Torah are to shape a person and morph him into a being that is connected to Hashem through his mind, and he's divinely, he's connected to the divine. Such a person, because his connection to the divine, therefore he has a special protection, and that is that Hashem looks after him specifically. So it's something you earn. It's something that if you make sort of your presence known, right, to Hashem, then Hashem knows you in return. Hashem tzilcha, right? So if you connect to Hashem, and if you live consciously with a relationship with the Eibishter, then in turn, Hashem protects you and Hashem leads your life. And such a person, his business deals and his days and nights will be controlled by Hashgacha Pratis. But anyone that just lives a regular mundane life and they're not connected and they're not a tzaddik, then they don't earn that special protection, and they in many ways live in a jungle. So I think that's fair to say in Shittas Rambam. It's obviously very scary thoughts, but this is something that needs more serious exploration. Let's just go a little further in the Rambam over here. So here the Rambam is contrasting his worldview versus the popular worldview. And you can find a hint of that in Psukim and in Chazal. That every time a person moves and does anything, that is beratzon Hashem. Meaning a person can do a single action if Hashem doesn't want it. So that if you find something in Chazal that would say such a thing, and I'll tell you the Moshe what. Perfect example. That Ma'amar Chazal states unequivocally that every time a person gets a boo-boo, it was announced. And had it not been announced, then nothing would have happened to him. Which implies that every single person and the most mundane little thing that happened to him, everything is bashert, everything is written and everything happened, and nothing could happen by mere chance. Says the Rambam, what do we do with that? Because I don't agree with that. So the Rambam says, no, that's beautiful. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. How? He says like this. It's true. You have to look at it this way. So someone takes a rock, throws it up in the air, and it falls down. Says the Rambam, we could say that the reason why this rock fell down is because Hashem wants it. Because Hashem was goyzer that this rock should fall down. Every single rock that ever fell was nigzar that it's going to fall. When was it nigzar? I'll tell you. When Hashem wrote up the code and he wrote E equals MC squared, and he wrote over there the law of gravity, all those mathematical equations, and when he put everything into rotation and he put the whole Milky Way, when he created all that and he wrote the code into it, and when he made a person. And he wrote into the code that when something pierces the skin, blood is going to come out. Then that's when it ain't no then. So it doesn't mean that now today Hashem was going the Yankiv Shmerel is going to walk through and a coconut is going to fall on him and break his back. That wasn't that could be random, but when was it written? Why could it only happen by Ratzon Hashem? It's the general Ratzon Hashem of Hakol B'dei Shemayim, meaning the laws of nature and the consequences of something that happens as a law of nature. All these things like gravity and anything else, that is Ratzon Hashem. Hashem that the earth should be in the center. This is obviously a geocentric theory and the science that's based on it. Every time you throw something up, it's going to track back to the center. וכן כל חלק מחלקי האש נוע כלפי מעלה, על פי רצון השם שקודם שתהיה האש נוע כלפי מעלה. A fire is going to be attracted, is going to go up, and earth goes down. אלוהי שהשם רוצה עתו באיס תנועה החלק הזה של הארץ שינוע כלפי מטה. It's not that Hashem was gozer about this specific rock at this specific moment and this time that this should fall over here. No, that's not what it means. What it means is that when Hashem created the world, he wrote it into the code and he wrote in gravity, so then it was nixar that every time someone throws a heavy object up, it's going to fall down, and every time someone lights a fire, it's going to go up because whatever nature of the gases and whatever that is, that it should rise. Finished. Heat rises, cooling, all these things. Anything that has to do, every time ice freezes, it was nigzar. Hashem was nigzar that ice should freeze. When was Hashem nigzar ice freeze? Now, does Hashem have an opinion on this ice in my freezer? Absolutely not. He could care less, and he's not involved in any way. That was my choice, and it happened because my bechira, and had I made a different choice, it wouldn't have happened. So the Rambam is giving us his perspective on Hakal B'dei Shemayim, Chutz Mir Shemayim. Hakal B'dei Shemayim means the laws of nature B'dei Shemayim and the consequences of something that happens in a natural world. So when you do something using nature, and nature does its thing, that is B'dei Shemayim. And therefore, every time someone gets a boo-boo, and someone trips on a rock and he breaks his bone, that is B'dei Shemayim. How is it B'dei Shemayim? Because that's what happens when you fall. Ubezeh cholkim al mit kalamun. So the kalam. The kalam is this we spoke about them already in the past. The kalam is Muslim intellectuals who the Rambam disagrees with in many different areas, and this is where. So the Rambam says here, this is another area where we have a disagreement. Kishamatem I heard that they said shaharotzen b'chol davar hu eis achas eis achar eis tomid. That Ratzon Hashem is involved in this world at every single moment. I don't believe that. אלא רצון הוא בשש מברשס. ושכל הדברים נהגים על פי טבעם תמיד. כמו שאמר, מה שהיה הוא שיהיה, ואשר להיות כבר היה. אין כל חודש תחת השמש. So the Rambam says, no, I don't believe that every single thing in nature, there is a hashgacha pratis. There is no hashgacha pratis in every little thing in nature. Absolutely not. And there's no hashgacha where that leaf is going to fall and the worm, by the way, the first, obviously it probably has a much older makar, but the makar for this story is that I found is in the Rambam. He brings this story to convey this idea about the worm and the leaf, and he says that I disagree with the story. I don't think it's true. I don't think there's hashgacha pratis in that worm. I don't think there's hashgacha pratis which leaf should fall off the tree. No shaks, there's no such thing. Where is Hashem involved in this picture? That Hashem made a law that the wind there is wind and wind blows, and when wind blows at a certain whatever, then leaves that are a certain whatever they will fall. Fine, and this is just the consequence. No one knows, no one cares. This is not something that's by design at all. And meaning it's only by design, but it's not intentional in any way at this moment. So obviously we all know that the Baal Shem Tov very, very much disagrees with this perception of reality. And the Baal Shem Tov does hold that there is hashgacha pratis and every single action and every single thing of nature is b'hashgacha. And there's a certain logic in it when you look at it from a spiritual perspective, and that is that if Hashem is mechadish the bria every second, and so there's a certain Ratzon Hashem, and it's mistaber to say that only something that is a result of Ratzon Hashem could actually happen in the world. And so that's really what the Baal Shem Tov says, and therefore everything that happens in this world, says the Baal Shem Tov, is a direct result of Ratzon Hashem, and had Hashem not wanted it, it wouldn't have happened. And the Baal Shem Tov agrees with the kalam in this area. But the Rambam says no, that's not it. And the Rambam takes it so extreme, and he says like this, and this is obviously comes from deeper philosophical thought, and that is that the reason why. So there's a deeper disagreement between the Rambam and the kalam. And that is that if you say that everything that happens in this world is a result of a new Ratzon, meaning that every single thing that happens now is a result of Ratzon Hashem, it means really that the Ratzon Hashem keeps on being updated. Because it keeps on changing. Because everything in the world keeps on changing. Therefore, it would mean that Hashem's Ratzon evolves and changes, and to say that, it would mean that Hashem's Ratzon is lacking in a certain sense, because something is only susceptible to change if it's like one of us. But Hashem, who is not limited, there is no reason for his will to change. His will can't and shouldn't be something that evolves or changes in any way. Therefore, says the Rambam, it's his mahalach is that the Bria, Hashem wrote the general blueprint of nature and put it into place, put it on a certain autopilot system, and from now on it works by its own laws, and it never changes. And not only it never changes, and even when there are moifsim, even when the yam splits, let's take Kriyas Yamsuf for an example, the yam can't split because the nature of water is such that it doesn't split. And therefore, nothing could happen that would change that. And saying that now Hashem changed his mind, and Hashem usually wants the water to go like this, and now Hashem changed his mind and wants the water to go in a different way, that would mean that something changed in Hashem's mind, and that's something that you can't say. Therefore, says the Rambam, the Chazal say that Hashem made a Tanai before in Sheshes Mebereshis to the water that it will come a time when I am writing into the code now that it's going to split at a certain point. And all the things that were created Erev Shabbos Ben Hashmoshes, that are things that change in nature, are things that Hashem put into their code that at a certain time they will change. And therefore, it's not an S, because they can't, according to the Rambam, it's impossible for there to be an S in nature, because an S in nature would mean that you could disturb Hashem's will, or Hashem's will changes at a certain point, and that's unacceptable, because Hashem's will can change at any point. Therefore, everything that will ever have to change will have had to have been in the code and in the DNA, so to speak, in the first place. The Ramban, very, very much, this whole idea is very for the Ramban, and not the whole idea, because certain aspects of it regarding Hashgacha per se, the Ramban doesn't disagree with. But meaning to say that the general population is under Hashgacha Klalas and not under Hashgacha Pratis, meaning that Hashem keeps an eye on the general health of the system, and not necessarily to all the little details in the system. All the details and even people's interactions one with another are based on a bechira, and they're based on Hashgacha Klalis, but Hashgacha Pratis is reserved for tzaddikim that live with a relationship with Eibishter, Raglei Chesidav Yishmar, like the pasuk says, right? Hashem watches over his Chesidim and over the Avos, over Yaakov, over Klal Yisrael, over the Beis Hamikdash, over Yerushalayim, Eretz Yisrael, certain things that warrant a special protection. That is an Eretz Yisrael. That is a special Hashgacha Pratis that Eretz Yisrael that the Beis Hamikdash has, the Ein Hashem al Tzaddikim, V'oznav Shavasam, that Hashem listens to Tzaddikim, Hashem helps them, Hashem feeds them, that these things are people that are connected to Hashem and live in a constant relationship with their Rebbeinu Shalom. These people have Hashgacha Pratis. Everyone else is, in a certain sense, is Nazav L'Mikra, meaning they live in the jungle, and living in the jungle is a very scary thing. That's one of the things you should probably be motivated to be a tzaddik, is because according to the Rambam, and I think also according to the Ramban, then if a person earns it and a person be'emes is connected to Hashem, this person will have Hashem leading his life and protecting him and watching over him much more than your general person. And even though, let's say, the problem with living in the jungle is that you live under the law of the jungle. The law of the jungle is called Alam Gova, and whoever is stronger wins, and the survival of the fittest, and so on and so forth. That is the law of the jungle. And if a person lives in in such an environment, because it's a very scary environment to live in. It means basically you're at the mercy of the person with the least integrity and the person that's most competitive, and that's the world you live in. And you could scream from today to tomorrow, no one's listening to you. And that is a very, very scary world to live in. But on the other hand, a tzaddik is protected from all that. A tzaddik doesn't live in the jungle. A tzaddik lives under Hashgacha Pratis. So now, obviously, every person, if he davens to Hashem and he has betachon, then in a certain sense he could connect to that, and he could deserve a special protection. But it's something that a person needs to earn. It's not self-understood. So that's something I think that the Ramban and the Rambam mostly agree with. But where they disagree with is the nature of moifsim. According to the Ramban, then moifsim is much more. Meaning what we just saw. Let's just read it inside. That all the moifsim that are chutz derech hateva, asher hoyu v'asher yiu kvi shehovtechu, that happened already, like Chris Amsov and the Mon and the Be'er and all these Moifsim, and the ones that will still happen, I guess Los at Lova and Mashiach will come. Kulam Kadam Erotzim and B'Sheshim Ebereishis V'nikva B'Teva Oisam Dvarim Oz She'ish Chadish B'Matzin Ish Chadish. When the sea split, or when the Pia Aret split, and the people that were there thought, oh wow, something happened now. Something happened in nature. Nature just changed. There was a change. There is a certain system in gravity, and this just changed now. And the Rambam says, no, it's not like that. This was written into the DNA all along, because, why is this so important? Because I don't agree with the Kalam that say that every part of nature is every second. Meaning, if these are the two worldviews. One worldview says that every single thing in nature, every leaf that blows, every wind that blows, any storm that happens, everything is a direct result of Hashem's involvement in every second, in every part of nature. And therefore, when the sea splits, that's very natural. But according to Kalam, there is no difference between the sea splitting and the sea not splitting. Meaning there is no status quo. The sea splits because now Hashem wants the sea to split. The reason why the sea didn't split till now is because Hashem didn't want it to split till now. Hashem is involved every second. And it's just as a big nace for the sea to split and the sea not to split. Teva is a nes nister. Teva is a nes nister means that every second, every part of the world is being controlled and Hashem is involved in everything. And therefore there is no nisim because everything is equally a nes and everything is equal. That is one worldview. The Rambam says no. The Rambam is all the way extreme to the opposite. And that is that there are never nisim. Meaning, really, you should say it unapologetically. Yeah, there are never nisim. And there is and Hashem is not involved in nature anymore. Meaning, obviously, there is a certain overall, Hashem is watching and Hashem is leading the world in a certain in a certain way. Hitler can't kill 6 million Jews, according to nobody. That has to be bashgacha. Even though people are Bechira, but that is something, things that involve the fate of Klal Yisrael, of entire populations, especially tzaddikim, and that is something that there's for sure hashgacha. That's not a question, even according to the Rambam. But we're talking about, and that's, so the bigger things in nature, that obviously according to everyone Hashem is involved in. But the general day-to-day, first of all, nature itself, the laws of nature, the law of water flowing and gravity and all these things, that's something that Hashem created in Sheshim Bereshis, and that can't change. Because Hashem, being that Hashem isn't involved, Kaviyachol, in the Yam's situation for the past 6,000 years, therefore, to say that Hashem is going to make Kriyas Yamsuf now would mean that something changed in the Ratzon Hashem, and meaning, so till now Hashem wanted the water should be one way, and now Hashem wants it to be the other way. Hashem doesn't change his mind. And therefore, we have to say that when Hashem created the world, and he put in the code already all the nisim, and what the Rambam really is saying is that there was never a nes in Sheish Mebereshis. Never. Nothing ever happened. No Novi ever came and said, this is going to happen, and it happened as a result of what the Novi says. It never happened. What the Nevi'im did is, the Nevi'im predicted it. The Nevi'im said, they knew B'Nevuah. They knew that there is in nature, in Bria Yibra Hashem, they knew that there is in nature the potential for Kriyas Yamsuf, or the potential for the Pia Aretz and the Pia Be'er, and whatever it is, and they said that it would happen at that moment. Now, there are 1,000 kashas on this from today till tomorrow, because we were not mechonech in this system, so therefore there's a lot of pieces of information that we interpreted in a certain way, or maybe Chazal Be'emes learned in a different way. I'm not saying that I assume that, I would say that most Chachamim in Tkuvas Chazal did not see the world like this. I don't think, I think it's poshut. But obviously the Rambam has certain Mekaris, and the Rambam has his way of looking at it, and now we're learning Rambam. Oilam means that the world is, the world just goes in its own way, in its own nature. And Chazal always avoid they don't want to say that there's a rotzen, that there's a, they avoid attributing, to any single action a specific rotzen Hashem to that thing. If we say that a person got up, or he went, he moved, he did whatever it is, and that is a result of Ratzon Hashem, So when we say that a person did something, and that is Ratzon Hashem, we don't say that Hashem wanted him now to get up and now to sit down. And the fact that he just stood up was because Hashem wanted that to happen. He says, yes, it is that Hashem wanted that to happen. Why? Because Hashem put it into the nature of people that that they could stand and they could sit, and that rocks fall and that gases and fires rise. And that is when we say that something happened as a result of Ratzon Hashem. Klal Shel Davar. To wrap it up, this specific point, my worldview, the true, the Torah perspective, according to the Rambam, Shataman, that you should believe. Kishem she'ratz Hashem she'adam zokuf kaimim. Oh, so this is really where he hammers his point. And so what he says is like this. So we have to keep them, these are a lot of different sugyas that keep on, they're very intertwined. So you have Hashem's involvement in every single part of nature, in the leaf and the worm and the wind, like the whole Yom Tov song. How many parts, the malach and the wind and the tree and the leaf and the worm, the whole thing, right? So that is one perspective. And that perspective says that Hashem is involved in every single second and every single part of nature. And from everything. Hashem is just involved all over. Now, that would imply, a result of taking on that worldview is that really a person has very little control, very little free will, because there's a Ratzon Hashem in everything that should happen around you, and therefore you could think maybe that you do whatever you do, but really you're just you're not controlling anything. Everything is by design, and everything is controlled, and nothing happened because you think you wrote this whole nice thing. It was auto pen, whatever that thing is called, auto ink. I don't remember what it's called. It's all in your mind. You think that you're in control. You're really not in control. So these two things are one are a result of the other, right? If Hashem controls every single part of the world, then by definition, by extension of that logic, you are not in control, right? What happened now? Is that a result of your bechira or not? So that depends. Is Hashem involved in every action, or Hashem left that area open for human interaction or human innovation? So says the Rambam like this: just like Hashem created the world and He put in nature different things. Some things rise, some things fall. And everything is right? Everything is, gravity will never fail because gravity is Ratzon Hashem. And if a one time goes out of that, then that itself has to have been by design. So too, the bechira of a person, even though it's very counterintuitive, but Hashem created in this entire system, that the whole system runs very rigidly on a very strict bracket, very strict rules. Every part of nature has his rules of what it eats and how long it lives and how it decomposes and what it breathes and what it gives out, what its intake is, and what environment it can live. And everything is in perfect, and written to the billionth DNA number. The one thing Hashem put into this whole thing is an anti-system. And that anti-system is called the human's free will. And that is also by design. So just like you understand that there's Ratzon Hashem, that there should be a very rigid system for everything in nature, there's also an anti-system that Hashem put in every single person, and that's called free will. And that is Ratzon Hashem. And Ratzon Hashem wants a person to have free will, and therefore everything that happens as a consequence of the person's free will, that is by Ratzon Hashem. Now, is it by Ratzon Hashem being involved every second? Absolutely not. No, very much not. But the bechira of a person is by design. And therefore, it's sort of in nature that things that are led by the general b'dei shamayim that is b'dei shamayim. But the Hashem sort of relinquished. He let go in anything that has to do with the bechira of a person. Just like you wanted that a person should walk straight. Rachav chaza. You should have a broad chest. Balance boys, and he should have fingers, right? To compare that to, let's say, different animals that are smaller and they walk on 4 feet and they don't have fingers, they have hooves, let's say, or paws. He should move, and his motion should be by his own design. And he should have free will, and his action should be based on his free will. And no one's going to force him, and no one's going to be, and no one's going to stop him, and no one's going to withhold him. He can do whatever he wants. that a person would be ka'achad mimenu, which is like a malach, and that is that he has the option of tov and ra. Kvar bir atargem espirish yon kach mimenu the das tov and ra, koloima shehu nia yochid ba'olam. That he is unique. And that is that he can make his own decision. So tomorrow we'll have to start from this. So, wow, we went way over time today. I'm sorry. I didn't know where to stop. So, okay, I don't want to make this any longer. Yeah, l'chaim. Have a good day. We'll continue tomorrow on this point.